Hello, friends, and welcome to the Handyman Success Podcast. Our mission is to teach and inspire prospective, new, and seasoned handyman business owners. You'll come away from each episode with practical business tips and fresh inspiration, whether it's through the stories of our guests or discussions on topics like pricing, marketing, and more. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Call, owner of Handyman Marketing Pros. I'm joined by my co-host, Alan Lee, who coaches handyman business owners at the Handyman Journey, as well as owning Honestly Handyman Services based out of Northern California. You can learn more about our show, free webinars and training, marketing services, coaching, CRM software, and basically anything that can help your handyman business. We've got that for you at handymansuccess.net. We also invite you to join us in our private Facebook group, the Handyman Journey Mastermind. That's our intro. Now let's get to it. Whether you're patching drywall, sitting in the office, or making your third run to Home Depot, we invite you to pull up a chair and sit with us on another episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. Today's guest is Jason Havstad. I probably just butchered that name, man, even though you just told me, so I apologize for that. Jason, if you could give us a little snapshot about you, about the business. What's your business name, where you're located, if you could go ahead and just explain, how did you start your handyman business?
Yeah, so my name's, like you said, Jason, business name, Platinum Handyman Solutions. I'm out of Ventura County, so kind of a big range of different clients I serve. So ranging from like Malibu to Beverly Hills, the San Fernando Valley. I tend to like to focus most of my jobs within about a 30-minute drive. So I do a lot of work, Moore Park, Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village. Those are like some pretty high-end areas. As far as the name, it's not really that interesting of a story. I was trying to figure out a name about a year and a half ago when I first started, and I was kind of struggling because a lot of the stuff I was picking had already been selected. So when I worked in banking, I remember they had like a platinum membership package there when I was at the credit union there. And so I kind of was thinking, okay, maybe I can fit platinum into this. And so I was looking at like Platinum Handyman Services, and that had already been picked. And so I also watch a lot of Dave Ramsey, and his business is Ramsey Solutions. So I thought, let me check Platinum Handyman Solutions. And, I was like, I don't think anyone's going to have that. It's kind of unique. And so that worked. That ended up being my name, and I like it. I've had some compliments on it. And right now it's just me. I do mostly small jobs. So my typical day will be anywhere from 2 or 3 jobs usually. And I have a lot of repeat clients, and I'm just trying to grow every day. And so I think that's like a good snapshot of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Let's see. How long have you been full-time? And if you don't mind kind of sharing, because you're so dang new, any kind of rough revenue numbers, as far as kind of giving our viewers a snapshot of kind of where you're at solo, full-time, and also just for our listeners, he's in California. This is all in the state of California, in the Simi Valley area. So, so if you could go ahead and kind of just jump into that for us, man.
Yeah, so the story's kind of long, so I'm going to just do a bunch of cliff notes here. So I'm actually on, I guess, my 4th career. So I was in banking for 10 years. I was in investments for about half that. I didn't really like it. So during that 5 years in investments, I was actually trying to become a police officer. And so took 5 years of trying. Nobody wanted to hire me. I was just kind of struggling. I gave up, got into security. I was actually doing bodyguarding out in Beverly Hills a lot. Did that for about 5 or 6 years. After 2019 and 2020, COVID hit, George Floyd hit, and they were short police officers. So I said, I'm going to try one more time. Thankfully, that was it. I actually did get hired by Simi PD. I thought that was going to be the career for me. Lasted about 6 months. Their training program was kind of in shambles, and I got the brunt end of that. And so I got back into security. I was working nights. I was actually doing a lot of work around the house. I was doing security cameras, Ring doorbell, new faucets. So I was always watching videos on these night shifts. I hated working nights. I actually stumbled into Alan's videos. That's actually kind of where the story began. So this would have been 2024. and I was watching Alan's videos, and I actually had a handyman too. And so I would only give him the stuff that I was like, yeah, I really don't want to mess with that. And so the long story short is I kind of got to thinking, how can I get out of these night shifts and drive into Beverly Hills every day? And how can I like maybe turn this into a job? I'm looking at the guy doing my handyman work, and he's literally Chuck. Like, that's Chuck. Like, I hired Chuck. And so I'm like, I know I could do a better job. And no offense, because he's an awesome guy. Like, he's such a nice guy, and he'll show up and he'll want to talk to you for like 45 minutes. And I'm like, dude, I'm on my way out. But so that's kind of what started the whole journey, if you will. And basically, like I said, I was watching Alan's his vlogs, and I kind of got inspired by that. And so I was thinking, like, I wonder what it would take for me to start something. And so this would have been like around March or April. I actually started my business while I was doing security or bodyguarding there. And
what year?
So this was April 2024. I started the LLC, and basically I was just trying to do like the Ramsey approach, like just like ease my way into it to kind of see, is there work available? What kind of, money can I really expect in my area? That kind of thing. And so on a sidebar, I had a buddy who was a general contractor out in Malibu who, once I told him about everything I was doing, he kind of was like, hey, I could use some help. So I actually left security to go work for him for a few months, thinking that might be something where I could learn a lot working for a contractor. And I still had my business. I had done at that point maybe like half a dozen jobs, really truly learned that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was learning each and every day how to get better, whether it's pricing or just acquiring the right tools, that kind of thing. So anyway, I worked for him. It actually kind of just fell apart because he hired me as like a project manager, which I didn't agree with, but that's really what he wanted me for. And so it kind of fell apart. And so basically, fast forward to like August of last year, I was basically unemployed, but I had my business and I had already done a few jobs. And I was thinking to myself, like, why not just try to go full time right now? Like, it's not ideal. Like, so I was actually looking for work. I was actually like applying for jobs, but I wasn't getting a ton of traction. So I just was kind of thinking to myself, like, I'm going to just hit this like as hard as I can. So I got some business cards made, got some magnets for the car. And within about 2 weeks, things started progressing pretty quickly, probably because I was priced too low, which, again, I learned from Alan. I think I was at that time maybe around $45 to $50 an hour. I was getting a good amount of work, good amount of calls, but by no means was I like doing really well. Like, I was just taking a lot of jobs that I really didn't know if I would even be able to do it or not. But that was basically when I went full time, to answer that question. But yeah, I did go part-time in April. And so from April to August was part-time. And then from August to December was full-time. But I will say too, that I took, December off to do a trip to Europe. So all of December, there's no revenue. And that even, I think, affected me a little bit going into January. So, I think that will kind of catch you up in terms of like the last 5 to 10 years, how I went from investment banking to being a full-time handyman.
Hey, let me interrupt this episode real quick. I want to talk to handymen out there who are just pulling their hair out because there's so much stuff to do in this handyman business. Running a business is already tough enough, and your software shouldn't make it harder to run. So I want to introduce you to the Handyman Champion CRM app. It's designed specifically for handyman, not plumbers, not roofers, but handymen. With it, you can schedule jobs, you can create estimates, you can create invoices, you can get paid right on the spot, and keep everything in one simple app. So stop piecing together random tools and start getting the app that's built for you. You can grab your free 30-day trial at handymanchampion.com.
Dude, that's awesome. This is like, banker, investment, turn security, turn police officer, and then now you're a handyman. Like, this is so cool. So I'd love to like hear a little bit about, that when you decided to go full time in August 2024, and then you said you got some magnets and some business cards, and then it took like 2 weeks and then calls started coming in. Like, was there anything that you did in those 2 weeks that helped kind of launch this puppy? And like, did you make posts on Facebook? Did you go door to door? Like what were the things that you would attribute like the calls started coming in during those 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I would say I definitely went and I started just like literally passing out business cards, going like door to door, not even knocking because you don't want to like upset people, but just leaving business cards.
Right.
I got a few jobs from that. Um, I think I did get a few jobs from magnets, maybe like one or two, not a lot. The first magnets I came up with were like absolutely terrible. Um, so I had to get rid of those quickly. But so I actually took your advice, Alan. I did some ads. That was, I think, what really started to drive more people to me. And then also from Jason, because I was listening to the Success podcast at that point as well. So I was doing ads. I had done the Google My Business profile. I had got a few reviews. So like all those things, I think, was what started just basically creating that growth, and then also getting some referrals. And then, funny enough, actually, TaskRabbit. I don't love TaskRabbit, but I also don't hate it because I've gotten a good amount of work off of it, and I kind of look at it as like a good vehicle for someone who really is like just starting out, because you might be able to get those jobs that are like lower paying that you wouldn't have got otherwise. So I did actually get a good amount from TaskRabbit. The the little cheat code I'll throw in here is I did not get a single job till after I had my wife book me through there. I literally had to trick the algorithm because I was on there for like 2 weeks. I didn't get a single job, and I was like, this is crazy. So I was like looking on Google, and I think I found that like the way you can get that started is by like having a family member or somebody or a friend or relative can book you, and then it sparks the algorithm. And after that, I think I got like 4 jobs. So that was kind of what started the whole process of like getting jobs slowly and slowly but surely. But it was definitely a very hard process in the beginning. And I did take, I'd say some of the first jobs I took, I honestly didn't make any money on because I didn't know what I was doing. So I was making probably like $8 an hour, painting someone's spaceship board. So I definitely had a lot of trials and tribulations, and I'm still learning obviously daily, but the first few months being full time, I feel like I learned very, very quickly, like, how not to price, on a sidebar as well. My first TaskRabbit job, I got a 2-star review. So I already thought like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Thankfully, that's the only bad review I got, because from now I think I'm up to 38 5-star on Google and 25 5-star on TaskRabbit. So like that was like just a fluke, clearly, but it can happen to anybody. And I think the longer you do this, the more likelihood you're going to get those people who leave you a 4-star or 2-star or 1-star or whatever. So I hope that answered that question.
I love that, Jason, and I'm with you, man. Like my first quite a while, I was probably making $8 an hour too. So we all start out like pulling that number out of thin air, and then we start actually figuring out what our hourly rate needs to be, and we're like, oh man, I was way undercharging. So I love that. And one thing I really wanted to, maybe because like I was a gamer as a kid, so cheat code. You said cheat code. I think that's so awesome. And I think there's some cheat codes that like we can learn how to like get things going, get the ball going. And I always tell people like when you're first starting up, create a Google business profile and then go back. Like maybe you replaced the kitchen faucet for your mom 10 years ago. Have her leave you a review. Maybe you did some work for, your neighbor, 5 years ago. Have them leave you a review, even if it was before your business started. But like all of these things help, right? These are all like little cheat codes. And one that I really used was I made a post on my Facebook page, and I told people, hey, I'm starting up this business. Can you share this post? And then they share it with all their friends, and it just gets out there. So utilize your network in whatever way you can. And maybe you took a picture of a toilet paper holder that you replaced, 3 years ago before you had your business. Like use that as content for your new website or your new Facebook page or things like that. And I love that you said about, TaskRabbit and having your wife kind of book you. Like those are things that work. And I think that, you definitely learn a lot, through kind of the school of hard knocks when you're first starting out. But I love that story. Thanks for sharing that, Jason.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know I cut out there for a minute, guys, but if you could kind of catch us up, Jason, as far as like this year, like like what has changed this year? Because now, I mean, you're like, I'll let you kind of speak to more details about the numbers, but kind of hitting monthly gross revenues of over 8,000, being an owner operator and, you know, having less overhead, netting a really solid profit of that for your own household. So if you can kind of catch us up with like maybe just the difference of kind of like where that first hustle phase started, making $8 an hour at the end of the day, and then kind of what that journey's been this year and where you are now.
Yeah, so the way that I started out pricing jobs was completely wrong. It was like 45 or $50 an hour. That was basically what I was making doing the bodyguarding. So I thought, just same thing as Alan, like this sounds good, right? And so I did get a good amount of clients who were repeats, and so that helped drive that top line revenue. I did make a change. I want to say maybe around January. I moved it into half day, full day pricing, which I learned off of one of your guys' guests. I really like that model, and I think it's a good model for people who are not super good at pricing in general. Because what I noticed for myself, at least, was if I did not price a job right, I would. It's not even like I would make little money. I would basically be losing money. So if you do it in such a way where you're doing like half day or full day, you know, even if you didn't make as much as you could have, you're at least going to make a good amount of profit. And that's what I'm always after, is a good amount of profit. And so last year, from August to December, I mean, I think I did maybe around like 20,000 revenue. This year, again, you know, being off for half of April and a slow January because of being off for all of December, I still think my top line revenue this year will be around 75,000, and I think my profit will probably be somewhere in the 60 to 65,000 range is what I'm projecting.
Awesome. Yeah. And you shared, I know, you know, we talked privately a little bit ago of like kind of hitting, like starting to hit some like 8,000 months and able to profit a good like 7 from that. So you're kind of getting some strong momentum in this, like what I always describe as the new business hustle phase. Like it's to replace your previous full-time income. It's a lot of work. And, you know, especially when you don't have many repeat clients and not much traction, when you take a month off, I mean, they say the best time to market was 3 months ago. And so when you're new and you take a month off, it's like, shoot, that's a big hole. So anyway, I commend you for kind of all the work you've been putting into it and starting to figure this thing out. One, like in this kind of vein of like your story and kind of like the, you know, you haven't been in the game that long yet. What are some like bigger takeaways or lessons that you learned in this kind of like startup phase now that you're starting to hit this traction of like, you know, I've got a nice full-time job for myself?
Definitely tons and tons of lessons. I'll just hit a few that kind of come to mind quickly. One, really pay attention to that calendar. You do not want to overbook yourself or be driving to the wrong job, which has happened. So pay attention to that. Now I use Jobber, and it truly makes a huge difference. So that was a big lesson for me, was just trying to be organized. And then on top of that, pricing is key. We all know that. We talk about that a lot. So get your pricing dialed in. And everybody, I noticed on like the Facebook page, like everyone wants to know like, oh, what should I charge for this? It's like, it's so irrelevant, because they might have a crew to where the price can be brought down because of economies of scale. So like, just worry about the pricing that you need. And for me, I love the half day, full day, especially when I'm booking lots of full days. I love it even more. It's been a little harder to book those full days, but some other lessons too. Don't bite off more than you can chew, but also don't be scared to take on something that you've never done. So I did this one job that was replacing like a shower mixing valve. And what happened was I basically walked into this job where like this plumber or somebody had already showed up, cut out the drywall behind the shower valve. And I literally walk into it and I'm looking at it because I actually estimated this one, which I normally don't do, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, what scared this guy off? Like, why is this not done? And so I was really scared. Like, I was actually almost not going to do it. And then I was just like, I did a little bit of research. And so like, I actually ended up doing it, and it was a day and a half, and I made some good money. And like, everything worked and she was really happy. And so like, for me, that was kind of like a big lesson because it was like, I just made like, I don't even remember what it was, maybe $1,200. And it was very hard, but it was like also very rewarding because it was like, okay, like I didn't even know if I'd be able to do this. And I was running PEX and using crimpers, and it was like pretty technical, like almost to the point where like a plumber probably, should have done the job because like they probably could have got it done in like 4 hours. It took me, 12, but I got it done. There were no leaks. Like she was really happy. I got a good review. So like that was a big lesson for me too, of like, don't be so scared to where you're like leaving money on the table, but like definitely be scared when you start touching electrical and plumbing, and like, you can run into issues. And so those are some lessons that I've had to learn too, of just like, referring out electricians and things like that. So those are the lessons I
Yeah.
got.
That's really good, man. And I know exactly what you mean, like of feeling like kind of a little scared of a job, but like also pushing yourself. And I've told people before, like on my vlogs, like you mentioned before, that hey, I've never done this job, but I'm confident I can do it. Like, I know how to do it, and like just being honest with them. Oftentimes people appreciate that. You don't necessarily need to say that to them, but if you have any fear in your heart, you can always just like tell the client that, hey, I've never done this job, but I'm very confident I can do it. If you don't want me to do it, that's perfectly fine. But I'm more than willing if you want to do it. So, and kind of leaving it in their court, like really helps. But I love that. And Jason, just to like timestamp this, you talked about the half day, full day rate and learning that off of one of our podcasts. I wanted to put it out there for our listeners. That was podcast episode number 12 with Joseph Millis. If you guys want to go back and watch that episode, it's a really great episode where Joseph really digs into his pricing model and how he does that. I'm pretty sure that was the one you got that from, but he very knowledgeable guy. So half day full rate, that's definitely an awesome way to price. Like we said, there's many different ways to skin a cat, so people price many different ways, but I appreciate you sharing that, Jason.
Join over 400 professional handyman businesses that are flourishing with Handyman Marketing Pros. Our team will equip you with a modern professional website, SEO, and an online marketing presence to take your trade business to the next level. You can see our programs, pricing, and schedule a free strategy call at handymanmarketingpros.com. That's handymanmarketingpros.com.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and something too that we always share with people is one is like, when you first start, it's going to be your lowest prices you ever charge. You're going to make the least amount of money, and it's just part of business tuition. So give yourself some grace and get out there and get after it and balance that fear with some confidence as well. So your pricing though will change. And so right now, like you're at the, the half day, full day rate. In a year from now, it could be different. Maybe you're billing by the job. But I just want to encourage all our listeners out there is that pricing is something that you have the power to update right now if you want to. So just pay attention to your numbers. The Handyman Pricing Handbook on Amazon, it's like $5, and Alan gets maybe a couple pennies from that, and the rest goes to Bezos. So check out the Handyman Pricing Handbook. It will help you get a base understanding of that. But give yourself some grace. You can update your pricing. One of my favorite stories was Alan. You were really pushing the limits on pricing a few years ago, and you bumped from like 150 to like 225 or 250, something crazy. And then you let it rock and roll for a couple weeks, and then ultimately landed on around like 160 to 180. So what would your thoughts be on that, Alan, of like price shifting?
Yeah, so I think it's important to figure out, first off, what works for you, like what you need. And I think to go back to, Jason, you guys are both named Jason. So I'm like, which one am I referring to? Going back to Platinum Handyman Solutions, what he said of like that question of what should I charge for this is irrelevant, because it's like, it really should be, well, how long does this job take me? Like how many hours should I allot for this job? And then once you figure that out, then you just need to apply your hourly rate to it. And there's a bunch of different calculators out there. That's something I'm really passionate about. We have the calculator in the Handyman Pricing Handbook. I think we also have one at handymanjourney.com. There's a pricing audit calculator on there to help you figure out what your hourly rate needs to be. And that's based on like what your expenses are and what your overhead is and how many hours you want to work per month and things like that. So you need to figure out that first off. And then you can also take in a bunch of other like demographic information, like how many people are in your town, like what's the, average, income level and things like that. So, and that's stuff that we really dig into in the pricing handbook. But don't be afraid to experiment with it. Like what will your area, like what will it sustain as far as hourly rate wise? And you want to figure out what that is, because if you need to make $300 an hour because you have so much expenses and things like that, and your community won't handle that, then you probably need to move. Like that's just the way it is, or you need to figure out how to bring way more value than what you're bringing to, to your area. So you kind of got to balance like, supply and demand, but also with like how much you need to make as a person, and will your community actually support that?
Yeah. One other final comment before I want to dig into your estimating process, Jason, is something that you should pay attention to this next year, because you're going to get better at doing everything. And in that, you're going to get faster. And so your half day, you're going to be able to get way more done. And so it's this balance of, well, like you're almost hindering, you're discounting your experience. So at a point, it certainly does make sense when you have that traction, reputation, tons of repeat business. You're kind of like the hometown handyman, to kind of play around with your pricing by the job, because if you're able to do double in 2 years what you can do in a half day than you can do today, why discount your experience and your skills in that? And then you got to balance that too with, if you hire somebody, there's all these variables, but for any owner or operator out there, do not discount your experience. And there's certain that new business tuition that you're still relatively new, and that's totally fine. But just to put that on your radar, man, is, don't discount your services as you get more comfortable, you get faster, you get more efficient. There's value in that your ideal clients want to pay, but like Alan said, balancing that with the actual market. So that's just one final thought I wanted to make clear for everybody, that if you are kind of bundling your value based on a time block, you're going to get faster and better. Don't discount that as you kind of grow into the business.
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to piggyback off that Jason call, because, people think of this, like when they hear us talking about hourly rate, they think that, oh, you should charge by the hour. I don't recommend you charge by the hour. I recommend you charge by the job. And it's for that exact reason, Jason, because if you charge by the hour, right, like when you first start out, it takes you 2 hours to do a ceiling fan, let's just say. And you're charging $50, for that hour. Well, a year from now, you're going to break that down where it's only taking you an hour to do that ceiling fan, but you're still charging $50 an hour. So, it's like, so you used to make $100 to replace that ceiling fan. Now you're only making $50 to replace that same ceiling fan. And you're taking money away from yourself because you've learned how to become more efficient. So it's better to charge by the job rather than by the hour. So I think that's a good differentiating. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Jason.
Yeah. But the quarter, half day, full day, I know a lot of people have tons of success with that. Just something to keep in mind as you start becoming way more comfortable and super quick, and like, oh, I need to swap 2 ceiling fans. No big deal. I mean, I'm just going to whip that out in a second. So anyway, moving on. Jason, can you walk us through your estimating process? Like, what does your estimating journey look like? How did you start estimating jobs? How do you estimate jobs today?
So in the beginning, I was just doing them pretty much, I'd say about maybe a third of them in person. And I pretty much completely scrapped that. So now I'm doing 90% virtual, maybe even 95% virtual. I get photos, kind of like what Alan does. I get some photos, get a little list of what all the projects they have, and then I just send it through Jobber. I'll send them, these are the rates for quarter day, half day, full day. I'll tell them what I think it will be. So if I think it's a full day, I'm going to just send my full day rate attached with that, but with all my other rates in there, so that way they can see that, let's say I think it's going to take me 6 hours, but it only were to take 4, they're going to only pay my half day rate. So it's all broken down in the disclaimer section of how my pricing tiers work, so that there's no confusion. I do periodically go to estimates, especially if they're in Simi, which is, where I live. So once in a while, if it's a job I really want or a job that's very close by, or I have multiple things that I think should be estimated, I'll sometimes, maybe bundle them into like a 3 or 4 hour window for a day where I only have a half day booked. I'll go do like 2 or 3 estimates and just try to knock them out that way. But I really have tried to get away from walking estimates. The one exception too is if it's like a repeat client that's done a lot of business with me, I will sometimes make exceptions if I'm in that area, or if it's like a pretty sizable job, like if it's going to be like a day or a day and a half, I might go just walk it real quick and get a lay of the land.
Man, I love this. I feel so envious of you guys. Like, I wish I had the Handyman Success podcast when I first started. Like, I was doing in-person estimates until like 2020, like 4 years, and you're in this thing a year and you've already learned this. Like, this is just amazing, man. Like, you can save so much time by doing most of your estimates like virtually. Like, I commend you for that, Jason. Like, that's so cool. And it's really cool just to hear how you've been able to learn stuff and implement it and ultimately provide for you and your family way better. So I think that's just awesome. I just wanted to highlight that, man. It's like, I wish I could go back in time and bring this podcast and all this information with me because, yeah, that's just awesome. I love it, man.
Would have saved some headaches.
Yes, a lot of them.
All right, friends, that's a wrap of today's episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. And I want to thank you so much for being here, but I want to encourage you, don't let the growth stop right here. I want to encourage you to dive deeper into our handyman ecosphere. We host free live webinars and live videos every single month, and these are jam-packed with strategies that can help you grow and excel to the next level in your business. And join us on our private Facebook page where there's thousands of other handyman just like you that have similar struggles that are talking about how to grow and how to be a better person and have a better business. So for resources, training, and all of that, all in the same place, check us out at handymansuccess.net. You can get links to all of that information down in the comment section below. And that's it for today. Until next time, keep being an awesome person and keep pushing yourself to the next level.